Three. All right. Yeah, well, let's start with the beginning and introduce myself a little bit. I'm Eddie Smits, born in Belgium, the beautiful Belgium, known from chocolate and beer. and um, as a child, I was a very shy child actually, and when people talk to me, I got all red very soon, and I cried for nothing, but I was very emotional. And that took me into my puberty as somebody who had a lot of problems with girls, for example. I didn't connect with girls. I lived on my own fantasy world, my own dream world, and I had really unlimited imagination. And but but I had a fairly okay childhood. And puberty was also, every puber, it's difficult. It's like that. But it started to dawn on me that I was really emotional. I really was sensitive. When I was on a ski holiday, and some boy pushed me, and I didn't push back. I didn't do anything back. And then it dawned me that other kids were fighting the whole time and pushing and fighting, and I never did that. I never had this. I was like, not like a softie, but I didn't have even the reflex to do something back. And I had that through all of my life. Even now, when people are rude to me, I seldom say something back. I'm beginning to learn it, but hey, I'm in my 50s now. So let's say that there starts a little bit for me how shall I say, the emotional, my emotional intelligence was that I understood what emotional intelligence was, and that I felt, oh my God, this is, for me, this is spiking. I'm so sensitive. I feel how people feel immediately, and it made me unhappy, actually. It made me unhappy. I couldn't find my happiness in that. And the first thing I felt something like, okay, this is my thing. Here I can use these things, was when I came in contact with children, and I became a Scouts leader, and there I could really, this emotional thing, this connection with children that I had already then. I could use that. That was the first time in my life that I felt, oh my God, there is a place for this thing that I have. I connected. I was on the same level with them, and I really felt great being around children. So for me, the choice of becoming a teacher was actually a logical choice because of my love for kids. And I started out that study, but soon I felt like, oh my God, what's going on here? I'm teaching children math and to read, but there's no emotion. There's no. It was as if I was the only one who actually loved children. The other ones, yeah, they were. I don't know why actually they became teachers. Maybe because they have a lot of holiday. I don't know. No, that's a joke. But during my education as a teacher, I immediately felt, okay, here also there's no, when are we going to teach children about emotions? When are we going to teach children that they get angry, why that is, and all these stuff that I was having so much trouble with as a kid. I mean, nobody taught me. And I saw that in education, nobody taught the kids either. And that was a big disappointment for me. But still, I finished the study, and I started teaching. And it was really funny because I started teaching in Freinet, and which is a special. Freinet was a French teacher who had the the idea that kids had to learn from their own motivation, from their own interests. So that was really, really my thing, actually. I had only 5 kids in my class, so that was great to work with. And so I loved it until I found out that my colleagues, which were all female colleagues, by the way, not that that matters. But again, here I bumped into these barriers of one, creativity. I couldn't display my creativity, which I had so much, and I had so many ideas, and I threw them into to the other teachers, and they weren't even interested. So my motivation diminished. And at the end of the school year, I was actually happy that the school year was over, and they asked me to start over the next school year, and I declined. I said, no, I'm not gonna do this. So that was a little bit my experience, my beginning experience with my emotions and how to cope with it. But I knew that I had to do something with children. So, but I didn't know what. But through my creativity, I got interested in theater, and I followed the course puppeteering, and that was something where I could have all my creativity go. I made my decors, I made my puppets, my own puppets, and so that was something that I really, I could do everything to boost this creativity. I loved it. I just loved it. I created my own stories, etc. The point where it really got interested was in that period. There was a clown on Belgian TV that had his own show, and I got mystified by this clown thing, and I had something. Okay, why are children so attracted to this clown figure? But I was attracted to it too. It was, for me, it was something. I knew clowns, of course, like in circus and stuff, but through this TV program, I saw other possibilities in this clowning. And so I went on a journey. I went looking things up. That days you had to go to the library. There was no internet. It was, mind you, it was early 90s. So I had to go to the library, and I looked everything up around clowning, and then I found out it went way back, even before the Romans, the Greeks already had their kind of clown, and it evolved, and it was so fascinating for me. I watched movies of Charlie Chaplin, of all these old movies, these silent movies, which for me was like, wow, you can get all these emotions by even not speaking. So that was, for me, that was the world I dived into, and I made a decision, okay, I want to be a clown. But that was easier said than done, right? Because I had really no idea what a clown was. Yeah, I had the same image of a clown as everybody has, right? The red nose, the big shoes, the funny clothes. But how could I embody this figure that had a lot of depth, because it existed for so long, and it had so much depth, and there was so much layers in this figure, that I really didn't know where to begin. And the universe spoke to me because I got a phone call of somebody here in Belgium, and he saw that in America they sent clowns to hospitals, and he was in the insurance business, and they raised some money, and they said, okay, we want to put clowns in hospitals. Are you interested? I said, yeah, sure, I'm interested, absolutely, but I don't know how or what. No, but that doesn't matter. Just if you want to do it, we'll give you the opportunity. And myself, and another clown. Then I was like 5 years clowning then, and the other one was a little bit older, but okay. And we knew absolutely nothing about clowning in hospital. And the first thing we found out, that clowning in hospital wasn't that easy, because we were used to have children that when we came in somewhere, children came up to us, and the party started, right? But the clown was there. Whoa, the party started. But in hospitals, it was a different story, because these children, they were in pain, they were afraid, they were in a world that wasn't theirs. So the first thing we had to do with these children was connect in a certain way, because the connection that we had with healthy children, by just putting on this red nose, that was more than enough, and we had connection. It was like putting a socket in the electricity and bam, the light goes on. But that fell down. We hadn't, this was gone, and so we needed to find ways to get this connection again. And we found the connection through clowning. The figure of the clown, the deeper layers of this clowning, all these emotions this clown had, that was the key to connecting with these children. We had to explore to find out how the child was feeling. Was it afraid? Was it in pain? All these things. And we became masters in body language. And in the beginning, we needed like maybe 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get a laugh. And at the end of my 10 years, because I did this for 10 years, it was instantly. I came into a room and everything, you can do it so fast. You look at the whole room, what's there, and you immediately find a way in with the child, which is nothing more than practice, 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 and nothing more than listening and observing. So from then on, the clowning in hospitals became interesting, and we learned every day, and we spoke to each other, what worked, what didn't work. But still, there was always something like, there was some barrier to the outside world, because we had a lot of problems when we started. Nurses were okay as long as you kept out of their way. But doctors really didn't understand what we did in hospitals. When the doctor came in, we had to leave. They didn't say hello. They didn't greet us in the beginning. So it was hard, and we felt underappreciated. But in time it grew, and now the clowns now that are still in hospitals are part of the team, and everything is smooth now. And that made me wonder why. There was something like, okay, why is a doctor, who is a clever or an intelligent human being, because otherwise it wouldn't be a doctor, right? How is it that he can't understand that when we let children laugh, that we make them at ease, that it's good for the child, good for the parents, even good for the doctor, the nurses, for everybody? So I couldn't figure that out, what that was. And until this day, I still have trouble explaining it to people. Now, for me, the real turning point came when I visited a 9-year-old child, and a girl, which she had only a week to live. And it started out that I had a hard time getting into the room. And with a hard time, I mean, the parents were not happy that the clown was there for the kid, and they said literally to me, "We don't want you in the room. We have problems enough now. We don't want you in the room. The whole family is there." And at some point I knew, okay, I need to show leadership here. I need to get into this room, because they don't know the effect that I can cause. So I took a big chance there and said, okay, what I'm going to do there is not only for your child, but this whole family is going to benefit from it, and your life is going to change. That was a little bit of bragging, but I had to do something to get into it. So eventually I got into the room, and it was a little bit dark. The whole family was there. They shut the blinds. People were crying, and the girl said, just sat on the bed, doing nothing. So I sat next to her, and what happened then, maybe it was 1 minute, but for me, it was like a day that I sat there, right? Because nobody was saying anything. And at some point that I asked her, I said, do you know why everybody is crying here? And then she said, no, I don't know. Because my mama and papa, they told me that when I die, that I will sleep forever. And I say, of course, I stayed in this role as a clown, and then I accepted this and said, yeah, that's true. If you die, then you will sleep forever. And then she said, well, then I really don't know why everybody is crying, because sleeping is my favorite thing to do. And at that moment, you could hear a pin drop, you could hear a mouse run over the floor. It was quiet for, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, which again, for me, looked like an eternity. But then something magical happened into that room. One of the people started laughing. And one started laughing, the other one started laughing, they started talking to each other, they opened the blinds, they opened the windows. And indeed, something magical had happened. And until this day, I still get a Christmas card, by the way, from this family. But the magic that happened there was the clown who brought that magic. It was the clown that observed, it was the clown that came to the level of the child, it was the clown that accepted everything. That was the thing that made that magic. Like, an adult could never have done this. And this way of connecting with children that a clown does brought that magic. And that point not only changed this family's life, it also changed my life, because that made me aware of the fact I need to do more with this clown philosophy, and I need to put it into the real world. What can we do with this clowning? What can we do in the real world? And that was a challenge. And it is a challenge until today. And I'm still trying to figure out what the problem is with people. One of the problems is that they don't know what this clown's concept is, that they don't know these layers. That's one of the problems. Of course, they can't know. The other problem is that most adults have really have a difficult time to get on the level of a child. And that's not a lower level, that's just another level. They lost this inner child, they just lost it. And that's the worst thing that can happen. For me, that's the worst thing that can happen with adults. To give you an example, often we didn't even clown when we came in hospitals. We just played with the kids because they were playing a game, and we just came in and we played with them. And we always invited the parents to play with us. And in 90% of the time, the parents didn't want to play with us. So it's such a stupid thing that parents didn't do. So these were all the challenges that I had to bring this clown into this real world. And until today, still when I'm speaking somewhere and they still say, hey, where's your red nose, right? People still don't get it, that the power of the clown is not the makeup, is not the red nose, not the big shoes, the funny clothes. That the power of the clown is behind the mask, that the power of the clown is emotional intelligence, that he is very aware of what's going on with a child, with adults, with an audience, right? He's very aware of what's going on. And the laughing part, which is of course important, because laughing, that's his goal, right? To make people laugh. But for the clown, that's not important. That's just, that comes along. And the more he can be this clown, the more he can be this inner child, the more he can soak up these emotions, the easier it is for him to make people laugh. And that's really hard to explain to people. So that's why I made the decision and said, okay, we are not going to educate children in emotion, right? Because when we work with children and they get it and they come to the parents and say, hey, I learned something, and then the parents say, go play, or go make your homework. So my vision is, I want to inspire as many parents, adults, teachers as possible in the world to find that inner child. And how do I do that? Is by self-development, right? By learning them this emotions, and what can you do with it, and showing them, right? If you are afraid, showing them to your child, and then it drips off. So that's my big vision for children, and that's my way of saying of changing the world. Let's put it like that. I mean, it's a grand word, changing the world, but I firmly believe that if we can reach parents, if we can reach adults, it will rub off on their children. Children, they mimic, they mirror, they do everything like their parents do. And if we self-develop the parents, and if we educate them, then I am 100% sure that we are making a better. Oops, sorry. Sorry, okay. So if we educate the parents, then I am 100% sure that we are doing good for the children. So that's my vision, that's my thing. And you know, for me, the biggest thing that prevents me from doing that is that I have to inspire parents to look upon children in a totally different way. First of all, they have to get out of this ego tripping that says we all know it better, we know what's best for a child, we know what the future will bring, and all these things. And we don't know what the future will bring. You know, I remember that my first phone, not my first phone, the first phone that came into our household was like this big thing with the dial, where you had to dial the number with the horn and the wire. You know, this wire that was, young people won't know this, but the wire always tangled, so we had always problem with this wire. And that was and I was 12 when we got our first phone, and my parents bought a phone. Before that, we needed to go to the neighbors to make a phone call. Not that we made much phone calls, but yeah, if I had to call a doctor or something, we had to go to our neighbors to make a phone call. And the phones we have now, we saw them in Star Trek. That was science fiction. And now kids of 6-year-olds have these things in their hand, and these things are powerful than the computer that sent the man to the moon. They have 6-year-olds have it in their hand now. So we have to get off this thing as parents, as adults, that we know what the future will bring, that we know what to think for them, that we know what they need to be learning. Okay, go learn for a doctor or a lawyer, you know, these things. We have to stop doing that. Should we prepare them for the future? Yes, we have to prepare them for the future. But the one thing they are always going to need, whatever happens in this world, is this emotional intelligence. They will always going to need it. And the more this world will digitalize, the more we will go online. And we are already so much online, especially kids. I've got a 6-year-old here. I mean, the iPad is like, he wakes up and the iPad is in his hand. So this online thing, this digital world thing is going to grow, and children will be younger on these things and more on these things. So the importance of emotional intelligence will only increase. So if we work on that, that is how we shape future leaders. Because if we learn them this emotional intelligence, if we teach them how they can cope with it, and all the feelings that they have, that's all okay. If we create these kind of leaders, then we are creating another world. Then we are creating a world where there will be no wars. Remember how I was as a child. If somebody hit me, I wouldn't even hit back, because I didn't know why I didn't hit back, but I just didn't, because I felt, okay, this is not the way to resolve things. So if we can start with the parents, yeah, we form them, it will drip off to the children, and we break this circle. We will break the circle. I hear so many times, yeah, and children are too much on their iPads and television screens. That's all true. But they won't learn it online. This emotional intelligence thing, we have to learn them these things offline. But once they know these things, then they will use it online. And that's the beauty of it. Then they can be online, they can be on Zoom, they can be on whatever. They can play games with children on the other side of the world. As soon as they have this emotional intelligence, then our job is done. Then they'll figure it out. Then they'll follow also their passion, which is so important to make people, but also children, happy. You know, 2015, I stopped performing. I was an artist for 22 years. Didn't tell that yet, but I was 22 years was a professional clown. And I had a burnout, too much going on. And it took me until like a year back, actually, to be back on my passion, to be back with these children. And I started out as a life coach, started coaching, started doing all other things. And I didn't follow my passion. How stupid of me, right? But the moment following your passion has to do with emotional intelligence also. It's feeling, it's all these things that children need to be happy. Let's just put it like that. So that's what I'm putting in this world, and there are ways. I'm giving lectures. I have this project, this idea now that I'm through the parents' children, right? So I'm just gonna tell this idea, and yeah, because I'm excited about it. If in companies, people are working in companies, and they are distracted by their family, right? If at home your children are if you can't cope with them, if there are troubles with your children, if you can't connect, you bring that to your work. So I see a big role for example, HR, to give these employees a means to connect with their children so that at home everything runs smooth, and they will have a bigger focus at work. I'm not sure if I can convince companies of this, because then there's again this problem. Can they see it? Can they understand it? But we'll see. But that's something I think is a way for me to scale, to reach more people, and yeah, the more the better. I mean, the more people I can reach, the more children will benefit, and the more my goals and visions will be achieved. So that's my vision for the future. That's my vision for this world, to make it a better world. And I know that everybody has another vision to make a better world. Some are busy with our environment, but again here, children that are emotionally intelligent will care about the environment. It all comes down to that. And to finish, that's what this hospital clowning really has taught me. Not only to see children in another perspective, but also to think deeper at how are we going to move forward? How are we going to raise children? What's this world coming to, and how are we going to make it a better world? And yeah, well, that's my solution. Teach children to embrace emotions, teach them to become emotionally intelligent people. And if we can do that, start with the parents, it will drip off to the children. And yeah, let's see in 15, 20 years how far that gets us, but it could get us very far. We just need to push and to get as much people inspired as possible.